Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Sunday live stream follow-up video, where I will continue coloring a project that we started in celebration of the 1-year anniversary of my release of the Best of C.L. Aldrich Mandalas coloring book. And we are working on this mandala right here using Inktense. For those of you who might not know me, my name is Christine Aldrich. I am an artist. I do draw coloring books for a living. This one is my most recent one, which is Dragons, Flowers, and Mandalas Oh My. And it was released in late 2019. Then I also have all of these, which have been released over the last several years. And then 40 fan favorites, which is down there at the bottom on this one, is actually a sampler of the top 8 covers that you see. So the top 8 books, there are 5 images from each in 40 fan favorites. And they were voted to be the favorites from all of the people who've colored my work. In addition to that, I am in both Treasury books, along with hundreds of other artists. And I also have a travel size book called Flowers, Birds, Butterflies, and More. Okay, so now that we've covered that, you can also follow me on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. If I sound a little bit hyped up, it is because I am actually just arrived fresh from the Possum Wars. But we will discuss that when we get to coloring. I'll be right back. Okay, that is much better. I am much calmer, and and I've got a story for you guys tonight. Let me just make sure that my camera is set right, and I'm going to zoom down a little bit and say hi. How are you? How is everyone today? Are you doing well? Are you enjoying being back at work? If you have had to go back to work, what is your state doing? I am messing around with the focus here, trying to make sure that when I get closer like that, that it works. So, how is everybody? I'm having a good week myself. I was able to get a grocery delivery yesterday. And I I was able to actually, my some folks are aware that throughout this COVID-19 thing, since I couldn't really go anywhere, I didn't stress about the fact that the battery was dead in my car. But it rained hard today, and so I did have somebody come help me get the car started, jumped the battery, and went and put air and gas and all that kind of stuff in it. And I was feeling pretty proud of myself. You know, I had a good day, productive, worked, drew some things, and, got the groceries, got them all unpacked, cooked some dinner, fed the cat, changed the cat litter, did all the normal things that, we do, right? This, by the way, is the fuchsia. It is a new color that I am introducing to this piece that was not in this, but I'm only using it very sparingly up here at the tips of these particular blossoms. Now I'm going to switch to the thistle. This, by the way, is for the benefit for those of you who might be coloring along with this. So I'm relaxing this evening a little bit, and I'm enjoying a conversation with somebody who has sought me out and wants to talk about art and, becoming an artist and how to and that kind of thing. So I'm enjoying, my conversation with her, and all of a sudden I hear this like clawing sound. Now, I have cats. I have a cat, not multiple cats, but a cat. So I'm used to sort of strange sounds. Now I'm with the deep violet, which is the darkest shade, and the primary shade that I used down here, along with the thistle. And what I'm really doing is just sort of creating a color gradient from the pink down to this purple for these flower petals. And so, yeah, I don't think too much about it. And, you know, the conversation goes on and on. And I, you know, while she was typing, I got up to pour myself a cup of coffee. And I had heard the scratching as I left my office, headed toward the kitchen. And I looked in the kitchen, and the cat was asleep in her bed. And a little alarm bell went off in my head. It said, if the cat is there, then what is scratching that I can hear from the office? And so, anyway, I open, you know, the only thing that where the sound is coming from is my furnace closet. And occasionally a wild creature will get into the attic. And I thought, well, maybe that's what I'm hearing. There's a creature up in the attic. And I got to be honest with you, if it's in the attic, I generally don't worry about it over much. Because whatever they are that's up there, I know it's not rats, because that would, you know, that obviously would be a concern. But I'm kind of a live and let live kind of person. So as long as it's in the attic, I don't really stress about it. Well, unbeknownst to me, there is a leak in the roof, apparently. And what happened was that a piece of drywall that separated the attic insulation from the furnace closet, where the furnace is, rotted away. And a opossum had actually fallen down onto the furnace. And then, when it couldn't find any way to get back up, it jumped off of the furnace, and now it is on the floor behind the furnace. And it is scratching at the walls trying to get out. And now I tend to be sort of fearful of wild animals, because I don't know what they do, and I don't know what a possum does. So I drop a quick note, because this I've learned in our conversation that I'm having with this lady that she has a farm, and I thought, well, maybe somebody with a farm, and the farm is in Virginia, and I thought, well, maybe somebody who has a farm will know what to do. So I said, completely out of left field, help! How do you get a possum out of your house? And she's like, wait, what? So she was, you know, she's like, she says, well, can you reach it? And I'm like, reach it? You want me to touch it? Oh my gosh. I said, well, yeah, I could probably reach it, maybe, but, you know, it is sort of wedged in there pretty good. And actually, I was gonna change to a green, but I think that I'm gonna use these same turquoisey blues here. Uh, anyway, and the apple green. Uh, she says, well, yeah, I mean, if you can just reach in and grab it. I'm like, grab it? I said, don't they bite? And she says, no, they show their teeth, but they don't bite, and, and maybe it'll even play dead. So I'm pretty skeptical, but I end the conversation because I now have to figure out what the heck to do. It, by the way, is 1 o'clock in the morning at this particular point in time. So it's not like I can call somebody to come over and help me deal with this possum. Not like I know anybody anyway. My neighbor who helped me with my car today, I mean, I could call him. He's a night owl. But I know for an absolute fact that he doesn't know what to do because he had a possum get in under his sink last year, and he called me to find out what to do. And I was like, I don't know, but he got it solved. And so I guess I could have written to him and said, how'd you solve it? But I didn't. Instead, I went online. And I typed in the query, how do you get a possum out of your furnace closet? And there's a YouTube video for everything. I'm sorry. So I watched this YouTube video. This actually was a possum. Oh my gosh. Was a possum that had gotten onto a ball field in the middle of a game. And so, here's this guy chasing this possum around with a trash can on the field, right? And the possum is running this way, and they can move. I had no idea they could move that quickly. I know now, but anyway. So they throw the trash can over the possum, and then they so now the possum is on the ground with the trash can over it, and all these guys are standing around going, well, now what do we do? Because you can't tip the trash can, you can't take the trash can off, without letting it escape. So another guy, the groundskeeper, comes along, and he's like, well, here, I'll show you what you do. And he just, lifts the corner of it a little bit until he finds the tail, and the tail is sticking out. And he grabs a hold of the tail and picks it up by the tail, and it's hanging there. And then he turns the trash can back over and dumps it in. And I said, oh, okay, well, all right, so I'll get a cat carrier, right? So I looked up, what do they eat? And now, of course, you have to understand that by this time, I've already given it water. Because I don't know how long it's going to be in there. So I filled one of the, like a coffee can lid with water and slid it under the door in case it was thirsty. Because I didn't want to scare it. So I put the cat food in another lid, and I put it in the back of the cat carrier. I opened the door very cautiously, because by now I know that they don't actually run unless they're, being chased. And they're more likely to play dead. And if you can get a hold of its tail, which of course now I'm scared to do, you can get it out. Why do I have the purples in my hand? I don't know. So anyway, so the cat carrier is too big to fit into the space in the furnace closet. I can't get the door closed. And it won't calm down enough to investigate the food in the cat carrier unless I go away. And so I thought, okay, well, now what? This isn't going to work. I spent half an hour trying that. I talked to it. I tried to coax it. I talked gently to it and softly. Come on, just get in the little cat carrier and I'll take you outside. Ooh, look at that yummy cat food. Num num. And it was just, I could, see, it was just on the side of the furnace, just looking at me like, lady, you are out of your freaking mind. So now I go looking for a smaller box. Well, but the problem is that if I put the cat food in a smaller box, I have no idea how big this thing is because all I can see is its little nose. Is the box going to be big enough to where if it got in there, that I could tip it up and trap it, so that I could then slam the lids shut. And so thank goodness I never throw boxes away. So I finally found a box that I thought might work, but it was a little on the small side. I thought, okay, fine. So I put the cat food in the box and I closed the door on the furnace closet, and I sort of go back to my desk, which is right outside the furnace room, and I'm sitting here playing Candy Crush and waiting to see, with all the sound turned off, so that I can see if I hear any rustling in the box. Well, sure enough, I hear some rustling. So I open the furnace closet, and it's sitting on top of the box. Right now, it could have just jumped out at me. So I immediately slam the door shut, which causes it to run again and hide. So now comes the second attempt. All right, now this time I'm a little more stealthy, and by now I've armed myself with a 9 iron, basically the 9 iron from my golf clubs, to to coax it along if it needs help getting in the box. And sure enough, it's actually in the box trying to get the cat food, and I scared it too soon, and it dashed out of the box and went back behind the furnace. All right. But at least now I've seen it, so I know it's not huge. It's obviously a young animal. And so the third attempt, I caught it on its way into the box. And unfortunately, it froze. Well, fortunately, it froze. And I thought, okay, reach down and grab the tail. And then I realized that I was barehanded, and I hesitated just a fraction of a second too long, and I missed it. So back it goes, scurrying behind the furnace. But persistence pays off. On the fourth try, I managed to catch it actually inside the box, munching away, and I tipped the box up and got the lids, put down. By this time, I'm gloved up. I've got my rubber gloves on, and I'm gonna grab the tail of this thing, and if I have to or whatever. But no, it's right inside the box. And so I grabbed the box out of the closet, and now I'm trying to hold the lid shut. And my security door takes 2 hands to open. So I'm frantically, I'm getting the front door unlocked and the security door unlocked, and trying to, get the thing open so that I can take this damn thing outside. And I finally get the security door open, and I take it out and let it go on the lawn, and it goes scurrying away. And it was obviously grateful. But man, I'm telling you what, those suckers can move when they're scared. It hopped away like a rabbit. It was, across the lawn and gone in no time at all. I had no idea they could actually run that quickly. But, so needless to say, first thing in the morning, I will be, because I need a light to get up there in the attic. I need at least, I need to know it's daylight before I go up in the attic. It's right now. It's like 3:34 in the morning, and I am still so keyed up that I thought, well, I'll just make a video. Anyway. So that was my Monday. I wonder what Tuesday will bring. At least now I know. I am proud of myself. I know how to get a possum out of the house. I'm sorry. I know it shouldn't strike me as that funny, but oh my goodness. It was like talk about the unexpected, Life is a cabaret, old chum. In the meantime, the cat is sitting there going, "Hey, not my monkeys, not my circus." She's not showing even other than stopping by the door and going, I wonder what that is. She basically ignored the whole thing. Even the cat food in the box, you'd expected that she might have been outside the door meowing at least. She was showed no interest at all until after I let the possum go, and then she wanted the rest of that cat food. She's like, hey, don't throw that away. I'm going to eat that. I'm just so glad I had some wet food, because normally she only eats dry food, but I happen to have a can of wet food, so that is, and I had just given her some tonight, so it was even open in the refrigerator, and I had, I read, because the lady I was talking to had said she said they're carnivores, but actually, according to the internet, they're omnivores. So they will eat fruit and all of that kind of stuff as well as as well as cat food. They'll eat your pet food as well. So at least that's what the Terminex or the pest people say. Now, they do say that they hiss, but that they're very unlikely to actually bite you. They're more likely to play dead. And that sort of made me feel better. As I was proceeding along each successive attempt, I was getting braver. I actually managed to touch its tail, and it didn't freak out. It ran, but it didn't freak out. So that was good. I consider that a victory. I'll take that. This is the dark aquamarine. Oh my goodness. And now I can tell Jamie how to do it. Because I'm not sure he ever did get the one out of his house. I think he just sort of, they came to an agreement that it could live underneath his sink as long as it didn't come out from there. Let's talk about Walmart for a second. Walmart delivery. I'm telling you what, that is a first-class operation. I don't know how it is in your area, but I've now had, this was my 4th week, well, actually 5 weeks because I skipped a week of having some groceries delivered. And not only has my order been consistently perfect, except when they were actually out of stock and had no replacements, but they always replace if you, or because I order a lot of great value stuff, so but they always replace with, um, like they were out of great value butter, so they replaced it with Land O'Lakes. Um, they were out of great value, some, oh, I don't remember what it was that I ordered. So they replaced it with a name brand, um, and I just think that's great. But they also deliver you these little goodie bags, and today's goodie bag was amazing. There were there was Aleve, the pain, naproxen. There was a sample pack of that. There was a sample pack of these ankle braces that are, that help runners to support your ankles. Um, they're like these big, they attach to your skin and offer support. There was a laundry pad or pod, to do laundry sample. There were marinades. There was a Coca-Cola energy drink. There was a wonderful dog treat which I gave the bag to my neighbor, basically, the whole thing, for just sort of because it was what I had to say thank you for helping me get my car started, because he got his jumper cables and came over, and I of course have a fair amount of experience uh, with jumping this particular car. It's got some tricks to it because the ground terminal is in a strange place. The battery in this, I have a Saturn Sky, and the battery in it is in a very odd place. So to compensate for that, they put the charging terminals in the top part of the engine, because the battery is actually underneath the car. Um, and he said I'd have looked all day and not found that, not found the ground terminal. I said, oh well, I know right where it is. Um, but that was awfully kind of him, and he did it on really short notice too. I mean, it's not. We talked about it a month ago when it first went dead, but can you believe that my car battery was dead for a month, over a month, and I didn't even stress about it. For me, that's huge progress. It used to be that I would break out in hives if my car wasn't running, even if I didn't drive it. It had to be, I had to be able to escape wherever I was. Mobility was the name of the game. Now I really couldn't care. So I put fresh gas in it, and because the gas was getting pretty old. The last time I had put gas in it was around Christmas time. So I did that. And sorry, I was just checking to make sure I'd actually hit record. Wouldn't be the first time I had sat here and chatted and told a whole story and not hit record. So Barb Zinger, who was at my Sunday stream, also did this using similar colors to this, and posted it in. She finished hers because she's good that way, and posted it last night in my Facebook group, and it is just gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. She chose to use primarily the same colors, but she did the star flower in yellows, this yellow background instead of blue, and I'm like, oh, I wished I'd have done yellow, but this way the two of ours will be different. But it was an inspired choice for a color for it. But then I'm going to outline this again with the golds, the gold metallic watercolor paint, and I'll be outlining this one as well. So that's why I'm not overly stressed about that. Matter of fact, I might as well add that color in. It is the sienna gold that I'm using to base this. So when I go to put the watercolor over it, it'll look very nice. Wondering if that isn't just a little bit washed out. See if I can warm that. Warm that color up just a tad. Let's see here. Yeah, it looks okay. I wish I could tell if that was in good focus or not. It seems like a fairly constant fight that I have trying to make sure that I stay in focus. At this time of the night, my eyes are usually getting pretty tired, but but I'm usually not wound this tightly. I kept thinking, oh, I don't want to just leave it in there all night. I mean, you know, A, they can do an awful lot of damage with their claws, and B, like I said, I had already given it food and water. At least water. I thought, oh no, I don't want it to I don't want it to die in there and then not be able to get it out, is really what I was more thinking about. I had a mouse die once in a bag, a piece of luggage. It had gotten into one of my show bags back when I was doing craft shows, and this was when I lived in Nevada, and we had mousers, you know, cats that was their job, but they missed this one, and or maybe they got this one, and maybe that's why it was dead. It crawled into the bag to die. But yeah, that's kind of a gruesome discovery. You'll certainly know it was there or is there. But that being neither here nor there. So hopefully, if you guys have any questions at all on anything that you see me color, past or present, please know that you can always ask. This particular lady looked me up on Facebook as CL Aldridge Art, of course, and so got in contact. And I also, I was saying in my Sunday stream how I had taken a trip down memory lane last week and had actually sent some friend requests out to people that I haven't seen or talked to in 18 years. And I'm very pleased to report that each and every one of them remembered me and accepted my friend request. So I was very pleased about that. Of course, you know, they're all of their kids are grown up now and just graduating college, or, you know, just going out on their own. One of the daughters of a friend is a veterinarian. She studied at the Royal Academy for Veterinary Medicine in London, and just is graduating this year with a has a doctor of veterinary medicine. She did her undergraduate work here in the United States. So I think that's cool. Doctor in the family. And I haven't really, I know that the others have graduated either colleges or high schools, but we haven't really chatted enough for me to know everything yet. So if they even want to tell me anything, it's just nice to reconnect with people that you used to know and used to really love, and to know that you're not forgotten, even if you haven't seen each other in forever. I was over in Dee Dee's stream today, and it was fun. She was looking at, she was actually showing her pen collection, which is just extensive. She, of course, is an artist of the first degree, and she's primarily doing collage now, but she obviously has does an awful lot of drawing. She has commissioned portraits in the past, or done commissions for portraits, things like that. And so it's always interesting to talk about art and products with somebody who is that knowledgeable, because she pretty much has everything at hand. So if you have a question about a particular type of drawing pen or writing pen or calligraphy pen or brush pen or anything like that, you can, and she's always happy to go down those rabbit trails with her the fans who watch her show, and I think that is so commendable, that she's willing to take the time and share her knowledge with people that way. Of course, I just happen to like Dee Dee anyway. We probably don't agree on everything, but friends don't ever need to do that. I'm just pleased to be a fan of her work. And she's always so generous with, pointing out that, that there are artists who visit her site, and she, hands out website addresses and channel addresses, and she's got great mods. Of course, I have great mods here on my channel when I do a live stream as well. So it's, always ready with links and helpful, answers when the host is asked for the, 67th time what book that is or what pencils those are. Those mods jump right in with the answer. And uh-oh, I'm using the wrong color. That's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect. It does not have to be perfect. I'm still using the wrong color. This is the fuchsia. This is what I want. That's okay. We'll call that the Persian fly in this one. This one will be a little bit different than the rest. A Persian flaw is a imperfection purposely weaved into a Persian rug, on the idea that only the divine can achieve perfection. So, and since humans are not divine, they should not court perfection like that. So, or something along those lines. Anyway, so I'm just using very light water. As a matter of fact, that subject came up in Dee Dee's show today. She was talking about basing with watercolors in your coloring books. And of course, I love to do that. I also base with watercolor markers or with alcohol markers, and then use pencil shading on top. And that's what she did today. She was showing how to do that with making some cactus. And they turned out beautifully. And then, of course, she was showing off her latest finds from Books A Million. The new Flow magazine. I love that magazine. It's very expensive, but it's got some really interesting things if you're a collage artist. It's also got tons of really good ideas for making things. Artist interviews, that kind of thing. I also watched today, I watched two documentary pieces. The first one, that I watched was actually how Adam Lambert came to be the new front person for Queen, for the band Queen, after Freddie Mercury passed away, and Queen sort of laid low for a while, and then they went out on tour with various guest artists, guest lead singers, but it wasn't until Adam Lambert came along that there was ever another voice that not could match, but was able to perform in the same way that Freddie Mercury was able to immediately energize an audience of 300,000 people. And Adam Lambert has that. Not only is he a voice of a generation as far as range, and I mean, you don't have to like the guy personally to respect the fact. And of course, there's nothing about Adam Lambert that I don't like. I've even forgiven him for that sort of really horrible thing that he did to almost sink his career at the Grammy Awards. I had seen that live, on that night, and I thought, oh man, he is going to take some heat for that. And he did. Boy, he did. But, you gotta love the guy. He says, I am who I am, and I can't change it. For an industry, you either want me or you don't. And of course, his diehard fans said, well, we don't care if you're gay or not. And those that do care, well, they're not, they weren't your fans to begin with. So, but he is an absolutely amazing frontman for Queen. I'm telling you what. He can sing those songs and make them his own. He's not trying to be Freddie Mercury. He's being Adam Lambert, and the crowd senses that authenticity and sense his talent, and the fact that he grew up singing those songs, and and pays them due respect, and pays Freddie Mercury due respect throughout the entire performance. So it's fascinating. I love Queen. I have always loved Queen. Of all of the the rock and roll bands. Because Freddie Mercury was capable of doing everything, like they say in this, in this film piece. He could sing gospel, he could sing rock and roll. He was a lot like Elvis that way. Elvis was one of those voices that could sing all kinds of different music, but he could also belt, actually belt a song, which is a term that I've learned from watching Broadway stuff. And the other piece that I watched was Andrew Lloyd Webber talking about how cats came to be, and how they did a docu-piece about making that 1998 stage production, filming that stage production, and how it was different than a regular stage production, in that they had reshoots, the constant stop and start. It wasn't, and then the actors who are normally stage actors, and so they're playing off each other's energy in the middle of a show, and here they are trying to film bits and pieces out of sequence and out of order, and still try to get the spirit right, and in filming that, so that the audience doesn't feel that it's less than one of the live performances. And because at the time, Cats had run longer than any other Broadway show, and of course now both Les Mis and Phantom of the Opera have set new records. But at the time, Cats was the longest running musical on Broadway, and on the West End. Sorry, the West End of London. So I think that both of those were fascinating. So my whole day was filled with art of one kind or another. Art and music. I think that's a pretty good way to spend a day. Art, music, and possum hunting. I'm still so tickled that I got that sucker out of the house. I can just, and it really only took a couple of hours. 2 hours, 4 attempts. And I won the war. I'm telling you what, it's a good thing I am easily entertained. There is just so much stuff on YouTube. My goodness. You could actually spend all day long watching videos. And not just of Joe Average. I mean, there are big time people that make videos, and film their blogs and do all that kind of stuff. And there's lots of Joe Average, which are fun to watch. So, and like I say, if you want to know how to get a possum out of your house, there's a YouTube video for that. There's one that shows you how to make a snare, and how to pick one up by the tail, and how to sort of ignore because they hiss and they show their teeth, but they don't actually charge or bite. I mean, obviously, it would probably bite to defend itself, but if you were hurting it. But it's I guess the thing to realize is that they really are more scared of you than you should be of them. Although I don't recommend going out and picking one up for the heck of it. But it's okay to trap if you need to know how to trap one in a cardboard box. I can tell you. Be sure to if you put a little plate in there with the cat food on it, be sure to put it in the be sure to put the cat food on the edge of the plate and put that edge at the very back of the box. You want that sucker to go as far into that box as it can, so that there's a better chance that you'll get it flipped up and the lid closed on it before it has a chance to escape. And no one was more surprised than me when I opened the closet door and there was its tail sticking out of the box. I thought, hot diggity, and I grabbed the box up and started folding down the box lids, you know, the box tops. It was like, whoa, wait a minute. It just froze, you know. I took it for a little ride to the front door. It was in the box a grand total of probably 15 seconds. Or maybe 20, because I think it took me 15 seconds at least to get that front door open. As I've got one hand on the top of the box and I'm fighting with the door on the other hand. Because mine is one of those, it's got a safety mechanism on the deadbolt where you pull the door toward you and then it turns. But if you can't pull the door toward you, it hits a barrier. So you gotta have two hands. And so yes, I did finally get it open by using my foot to hold the box closed. That's why we have 4 limbs. Okay, well, here is another one of those cases where I apparently forgot to hit record on this last part. I had switched it off to do something and real quick, and then forgot to turn it back on before I started talking. So trust me, I didn't say anything noteworthy. I'm sure I probably didn't. And I'll have to review the tape to find out what I missed. But this is where we are so far. I was going to show you the what I had in mind for the watercolor. The more, with putting the gold watercolor, but the more I look at this, the more I kind of like it the way it is. I like that sienna gold that I used in there instead of doing the gold watercolor paint. So I may stick with the ticket here and leave it that color. But when I am gonna shut off again and then come back and we're gonna do this last part. Okay, and welcome back. And it is now, I should probably disclose, it is now Wednesday at 1:55 a.m. And I've been procrastinating all day, or actually all day, since I started what I was going to do next. And I need to at least figure out what I want to do for the outside before I decide on the colors for these 2 areas. So I've had a chance now also to review the footage that I've already recorded and figure out what it was that I was talking about in that section that I had forgotten to press record on. So, so I have that at the ready. In the meantime, of course, we have a whole day's worth of, news, which, of course, I watched the news and there wasn't really anything in there that, we weren't already aware of. I watched a couple of, of addresses from our Washington types, and I watched the PBS News Hour, and listened to some interviews of talking heads that you always have to wonder, because not all the talking heads, of course, are saying the same thing, so it's up to us to, actually listen to the real event and make our own determinations. So, and of course everybody has different viewpoints. At any rate, so that is how I have spent my day. I figured out that what I was talking about last night, that I left out, was an interview on Adele. And of course Adele is arguably one of the finest voices of our age, as far as singers go. And she is recognized all over the world. Her records premiere in the number one spot when they do come out, of the three that she has recorded so far, 19, then 21, and then 25, which was hard to believe that 25 came out 5 years ago, but it did. So then, of course, that caused me to, because I buy those, and so that caused me to want to listen to them. So I listened to those today. But what strikes me, of course, about Adele, and of course anybody who has worked with her, this thing that I watched on YouTube was actually like a docu-piece, not a documentary so much as it was the folks that have worked with her on producing her records and things like that, and the commentary to a person, of course, was not only how talented she is, but how, regardless of whether or not the decisions that she has made about her career are right or wrong, they've all been hers. In other words, she hasn't, and she says this too, she just simply has not let the machine that is, worldwide stardom chew her up. And because of that, she is every much as genuine a person as she presents to be. And I recognize that, and it's unusual. And so I just think it is so very, very cool that that she has managed to do that, because not a lot of celebrity folks manage that. There's a few. Johnny Depp is one who has simply said, I'm not going to, I'm not going to be fodder for the tabloids or whatever. And so he moved himself and his family to a country where it's illegal for the press to behave that way, or paparazzi, more to the point. And and of course Adele did that when she had her child in the UK. I don't ever remember seeing the paparazzi chasing Adele around for pictures of her baby, although, they might have, British tabloids might have done it, but I don't think there's anybody out there who's got a single ill wish for this beautiful young lady, you know. So anyway, so it was very, very good. And then today, actually, I'd seen it post last night, but I didn't watch it. Adele, or not Adele, but Sierra Boggess, who y'all know is my, I just go on and on about her because she's just amazing as Christine in The Phantom of the Opera. And of course, I've watched an awful lot of interviews with her. And of course, she started her Broadway career doing The Little Mermaid. And she had the lead role in The Little Mermaid. But she went there after she was handpicked by Andrew Lloyd Webber for the 25-year celebration of Phantom of the Opera to sing the role of Christine. She had been singing that in the Las Vegas production. And he asked her to come over to Britain to star in it with Ramin Karimloo. And otherwise, I don't believe that they ever did a production together, but because, the production that they did together was the original Love Never Dies. So, they had already been the Phantom and Christine together, but in a different story. So, and then she, of course, went on to stay in the West End, and she sung Christine with a number of other phantoms. But the thing that has always struck me about her as I watch these interviews is that, A, she can sing anything. She's, had huge role, Fantine in Les Mis, of course, The Little Mermaid. She has, done Phantom all over the world. But she's just such a, she's like a light. She is like a light in the world. Always shining. Always her best self. And so anyway, what she's doing is apparently that's intentional. That is something that she has worked at, not because she works in an industry and very much like this kind of art. It is fraught with criticism and rejection and anxiety and fear and is it good enough and am I good enough and all of that. And so her mantra is, you are enough, you are so enough, it's amazing how enough you are, or it's incredible how enough you are. And and sort of repeating that every morning in the mirror. And that among a lot of other things, she's always got these little bags with her of stones and words, and they're all positive, and so she'll choose a word of the day. Sometimes it's kindness, sometimes it's confidence, sometimes it's gratitude. There's a whole bag of these words that she has. And so anyway, but she is going to be teaching what it's called light lessons. And as in L-I-G-H-T, light lessons, on Sundays. And so if you get a chance, watch a couple of them, I'm sure. I watched just, of course, the only one that's up so far is the introduction, where she's just talking about it. But I'm looking forward to Sundays, not only, of course, for my own live streaming, but now I get to have a light lesson from Sierra Bogus. And I think that's very cool. Because it's constant, whenever, and it doesn't matter if it's short notice, it doesn't matter if she's tired, it doesn't matter if she's at home in her pajamas, with no makeup on or whatever. She just radiates this light, and people like that, of course, are very attractive, not just physically attractive, although she's beautiful. She's a beautiful young woman, but they're also magnetic as far as their personalities go. People want to be around them because that is what they're like. And whether or not we are curmudgeonly or friendly or introverted or outgoing, it's why Anne is so popular at A Colorful Life. She is like that. I mean, even when she's just being, her normal self, she is a radiator of light into the world. And that's why people relate to her the way they do. And, and I'm not just blowing smoke. She is a personal friend of mine, but, I would, even if I'd never had a personal conversation with her, I would still feel the same way about her. So, yeah, I think I'm going to like that. Okay, so that works for that. That works for that. So let's see, because I need to be able to use this, the red, yellow, or red, orange, yellow. I need to be able to use it one more time out here. I didn't know if I'd want to do it in there or not. I think I am going to do it because I think it's a pretty combo, and we'll see. We'll see. It could be a mistake, could be too much, but I don't think so. So we'll give it a shot here. The chili red, if you're watching this and you haven't watched the other two, that was dark aquamarine, green aquamarine, and apple green. And this is chili red. And these are Inktense, if you're just now tuning in and haven't, well, actually, I guess this is all one video, isn't it? Oops. Okay. And so this is the cadmium orange. And this is the sun yellow. Yeah, I think that's going to work. As I'm looking at it on the screen, it looks like it's going to work. I left all the camera controls the same from when I turned the camera off. What for you was just a few minutes ago, but what for me was 24 hours ago. Or a little more. I finally did go to sleep because I had said I was pretty keyed up after the whole Possum incident, so I finally fell asleep pretty close to 4 o'clock in the morning, or a little, maybe it was close. I think the sun was starting to come up, so it was. And then I slept all the way through until 9 o'clock. So that tells me that I really did have, at 9 o'clock p.m., I really did have an adrenaline rush going yesterday, because that always always makes me exhausted. Jason Possum. Oh, gosh. It still makes me laugh, and of course now it's absolute. I keep it dead silent, uh, you know, after dark, so I can. I did get up there. Well, actually, that's really not true. I started to get up there today, and as I opened the trap to go up into the attic, I realized that that it's dark and scary up there. And if I were to fall off that ladder, nobody would know. So I am procrastinating. Because I am procrastinating, I'm hyper vigilant as I'm listening to make sure that there isn't another possum in the furnace closet. If there is, I'll know how to get it out, but for right now, I just wasn't brave enough to go up there. I'll try again tomorrow. I don't know. Do any of you guys have stories like that? If so, please tell me in the comments. What's the weirdest thing you ever had to get out of your house, and how did you do it? Oh, I'm liking that. I am liking that a lot. Okay. Seems like a long way to go just for a mandala, but you know, my mandalas are pretty mandala. I have. Is there a consensus? What do you say? Is it a mandala? Is it a mandala? Is it a... everybody seems to know what it is, so that's really all that matters. Orange. And I am sort of going right over the other color so I get a nice smooth blend. Not all the way over it, but, you know, definitely overlapping the shades in all the directions, all three of them, all three colors. I think it makes for such a nice blend that way. And I did experiment a little bit with the white Prismacolor to try and go over it to create some highlights, but I think I'm going to end up having to use the Uniball. If you've got Posca, that would probably work better. I do have some white calligraphy ink that is a bit chalky, so that actually might work since I don't have Posca. I have some paint pens, but they're about 25 years old, and they're dried out, so obviously they are not going to work. Okay, so if I do that, then I think, and that is always a dangerous prospect when I think, that I need to decide what I want to do for these little areas in here. Now in the black, I want it to be a very, very light color, and the two lights that I have are the yellow or the green, and I'm thinking that the apple green might be the better choice. So I'm going to use the apple green to fill these little areas in, and I may end up having to take it directly from the brush. This pencil could probably use a sharpen, but since Inktense are pure pigment, I always wait to sharpen until I can't use it anymore without sharpening it. Just because I don't like to be wasteful of the pigment. And yes, you can capture it. When you sharpen your pencil, you can just lift out all the little wood shavings. Sometimes it's hard to lift them all out. So if that happens, don't worry about the little tiniest slivers, because they're going to dry up and fall off whatever you're working on anyway. But then you can put them, say, in a little dish or something and use them with your water brush, just like you would paint. You just mix it like watercolor paint. So if you have a dedicated palette that you could do that on, that would be great. Okay, so if I do that, then if I do, I wonder, should I do black dots with a green background? Or should I do a blue background with yellow? Because I haven't reused this sea blue yet anywhere. But on the other hand, that is a very tight way to go around all of those things, and yellow is a very light color and not too forgiving. Whereas if I did the other opposite, I could do because I couldn't do the blue and then put yellow over it if I just did a wash. But I could do a yellow wash and possibly put the blue over it. Let's try that. Let's try that. What's the worst thing that can happen? The worst thing that can happen is it won't work, right? Because I just, it's awfully hard to do a background around polka dots. So if I were to do this, even if I ended up doing these polka dots in black, then I could use a much more easy to control, like fine nib pen, as opposed to a water brush. Because I don't want to turn it green, which is why I want, because ink is permanent and you can layer Inktense over each other without, sometimes it might be a couple of coats, but you can actually change it from blue and, so in other words, what I want to do is I want to prevent yellow and blue from making green. And the only way to do that is to let it dry. So that is, I think, what we'll do. So I'll do this one again with the... And I hope y'all don't mind that I talk myself through these things. I know sometimes people find that helpful to not only know what, but why. Why did you do that? I am definitely a why person. You can tell me the same thing over and over and over again, but if you don't tell me why you're doing it, I don't absorb it. So, and that, I think, is at the root of I've always had a conflict with authority, because most authorities, teachers and government officials or whatever, they're always big on telling you what to do, but they're not telling you why you're doing it. And so bosses, That's, bosses are like that too. Well, because I said so. I'm sorry, but because I said so is not a good enough reason. Tell me why I need to do this. And sometimes it's obvious why you're doing it. And so at that point in time, you don't have to have it explained to you. But if I don't understand, or if I can't figure out why you've done it a certain way, that's when I start to have problems with authority figures, that is. Let's see. Otherwise, life's been pretty boring. I was struck today. I got a little note from a friend that I knew 18 years ago, and she was describing her life and saying, well, other than the fact that they now have whippets instead of keyshounds, their lives are pretty much exactly the same as they were 18 years ago. And I thought, well, there's just some people for whom that is the ideal in life. That is the goal, is to lead just an ordinary, happy life. And boy, there's nothing wrong with that. I happen to know that these are two people who just absolutely adore one another. And so the idea that they just happily had a life, raised their two daughters, and will eventually be happy grandparents. She's a teacher, and he's a IT guy, and that there's just something very happy about that. And that after all these years, they are still, happily together, and I just love that. I love, heck, my ex and I, every single one of our friends is still together. It's like, I hope he gets that. He's married again now too, so hopefully he'll stay that way. Although that is kind of where this whole thing got started, is wife not particularly caring for his friends. I'm like, what's not to like? I always thought they were wonderful. And yes, that was my passive aggressive way of tooting my own horn. And going, well, buddy, we should have made it work. And you wouldn't have that problem. Is that terrible of me, everybody? I don't think I would have been nice if it had worked out. That it didn't, though, is, water under the bridge, so to speak. But that doesn't mean you can't look back and go, nah, 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 nah. Sorry. Couldn't resist that one. All right, I think that I will, now that you've seen what it is, well, actually I'm sort of waiting for that to dry. I think I'll finish this one. I'll turn the camera off when this is dry. I'll show you the blue, and then we'll call it a video. How about that? That way I'm not tying you up for all of, 2 hours, although I suspect that this one is going to run at least an hour and a half. But hopefully, little sparkling wit and possum tales have kept you entertained for a little bit at any rate. And please do be sure to put some stuff in the comments. Anything you might want me to address, talk about other things. A product that you might like me to use. A picture you might like me to color. All that kind of good stuff. Okay, so now well, let's see if we can do it. No, I'm going to wait for it to dry, so I'm going to turn off the camera and wait for this part to dry, and we'll come back. Pause. Okay, well, now, as you can see, I did go ahead and finish the outer ring, but that's all that I've done. And I did the red and the yellow. I have been joined by this tail here, the other end of which is a cat who may make an appearance here. Oh, there she is, checking out the coloring. What I have in my hand is the black, because I've decided against the blue. I want to go ahead and play off the contrast of having pre-put in black here in the printing process. Get your little head out of the way. Yeah, you're very cute. You're very cute, but you're not, you can't, the folks can't see through your head. No, they can't see through your head. And you're casting shade, man. Anyway, this is my my little channel asset, coriander. Sweetheart, yeah, you need to move. You need to move your little head. So, this is the Pigma Micron. This is a brush pen, but any black marker will do. These are, of course, the ones that I actually draw with. And we'll see if I can actually do this with a brush pen, or if I should get one with an actual nib. Yeah, you don't want to grab the end of this while I'm actually painting with it, sweetheart. Yeah, I would be very upset if you did that. Only because it would leave a permanent black streak, and that is a Persian flaw that we don't have to have. So why have it? So I'll do this one with black, and I'll do one with blue, maybe. Probably I'll just do the black. I like this because it's got a super, super duper tiny, tiny point. So it doesn't matter how small the dot is. Of course, I have micron pens in all sizes, all the way down to 005, which is the smallest. It's the one that you use for that super fine, super fine stippled shading. Okay, so that's it with black. Yeah, I think I kind of like that. Although it sort of wants me to because no matter how well it's printed, black is never really black. But I think we're just going to have to let that get by. I think it's just way too tedious to try and do that. So that is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and continue on around using the black. I'll bring it back one more time to show it. Hopefully little coriander will still be here, but I did want you to see her. Say hi to the folks, sweetheart. Say hi to the folks. Her little bald eyebrows. They've always been sort of bald. It's weird. Anyway, be right back. Actually, I'll record this bit as a separate, and then if I want to edit it out for time, I can. But I know that there are some folks who watch my videos who love my little girl here. So, yeah. Yes, she's not a possum hunter, that's for sure. She's like, well, yeah, that's because I don't have to work for my food. You just give it to me, don't ya? You just give me my food. You don't make me work for it. You know, we used to have 3 Mousers. They were Salem, and he was a jet black cat. Black from the tip of his nose to the tip of his tail. And then we had 2 Marmalade tabbies that are the same coloring as Kenji over at A Colorful Life. The yellow ones, yellow tiger stripes. And they were Fred and Ginger. As in Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers, because they were, now, all 3 cats were from the same litter. The guy, we had originally gone home with Salem, but then he was having trouble finding homes for the other 2, so we just said, okay, well, we'll take them too. And so that's how we ended up with 3 cats from the same litter. And of course, they were all spayed and neutered, so that wasn't a problem. But in speaking with my ex, he said they lived for a very long time. They were probably 2 when I left Nevada, and they passed away 2 years ago, pretty much within a few months of each other. So, and I was gone for 18, yeah, so they'd have been somewhere between probably 19 and 20 when they passed, respectively. That's pretty amazing. My own cat, the one that I had previous to this, she lasted for 19 and a half years. So that's a nice long life for a cat. Huh. And this one here, I'd have to calculate, but I think she's about 12 now. So we still have a long stretch, huh? We surely do. Sweet little coriander. Okay, so we'll do this. I may leave this little bit of video in. I may take it out. We'll just see how we're doing. I just don't want to make you watch a 2.5 hour video, you know? Trying to be careful here, and yet still get the edges. Plus, it's a bit of a challenge to use this flexible brush. So I'm more taking the opportunity to practice making small things with it. See how good my control actually is. Okay. Oh yeah, I like it. Oh, except you know what? I don't think I activated that yellow, did I? Did I? I didn't. Now the good thing about the Micron is that it is not, well, it is waterproof once it's dry. So I think I have to let it dry. That was kind of silly of me. So instead, let me do this. Okay, so now I will actually activate the yellow and let it dry, and then I'll add the black. Okay, that's probably better. Yeah, I didn't do that up there, so now I can wait until after that's dry, and then I can just go right over it, because it actually, once it's dry, it's waterproof. So at least it's supposed to be. Yeah, we're almost done. And we go to the end, we're almost done, and then you can have my full attention, little one. Yeah, she usually comes up here when she's feeling lonely, so. Or if I happen to be eating anything. Doesn't matter what it is, she wants it. And she begs like a dog, you know, like a dog does. She'll just sit and look at you, waiting for her turn, as she's slowly creeping up 1/4 paw length at a time on her belly, trying to get close enough to get her nose into whatever it is that you're eating. So, yeah, she thinks she's being subtle. And the other day I was, I was sort of in a Zen place. I was watching something on YouTube and eating a sandwich. And I look down and she's just about to start licking the bread. Like, I'm like, wait a minute, that's my sandwich. It was the cheese. She wanted the cheese because she loves cheese. Safe to say she adores cheese. Yes. She adores any kind of cheese. I think that's pretty universal in cats, though. And of course, they shouldn't really have people food, but I figure a little piece of cheese is probably okay. It's not like I give her the block, or, or a slice of cheese, or I give her a bite. A cat-sized bite. A cat-sized bite of cheese. Okay, so now let's see. I know it's bleed proof, so let's see if we can add the black in while it's still wet. That's what I love about archival ink. Which is what microns are filled with. And you can refill these pens, but I have done it. But most of the India ink that you get will in fact clot. In the sponge, and so it's, I mean, you can refill them only if you don't have a better option. Microns are fairly expensive. They're about, I want to say they're about $12 for a pack of 5 or 6. So, you know, they're really just a couple of dollars each. If you buy them on sale, and I believe Michael's actually even carries them, and you can use a 40% discount on them. And I, you know, because I'm an artist, I buy them in bulk, but so I buy boxes of 24 at a time. But they last a good long time. You can refill them, you know, like for instance, if I was working on drawing a book and was going to continuously be using the pen, I could fill it with, or refill it with India ink then. It's just if you refill it and then it sits for 2 or 3 weeks, then it won't actually, the ink won't flow down the tube anymore. Because these aren't felt, they actually have a little tube that the specially crafted micron ink travels down. And the viscosity is such that it never clogs. Okay, yay! We are done with this. Let me zoom out. Let me zoom out. And ta-da! Hit autofocus again. Maybe pull it up just a tad so that works. I'm just trying to mess around with the focus here one last time. I think that's it. At any rate, so I do hope that you enjoyed the possum tale, and I hope that you enjoyed this project. I am pretty pleased with the way that this one turned out. I like it very much. It will be on Instagram shortly, and so I will wish you all well. I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your week, and will consider joining me on Sunday for my Sunday Live. And until we meet again, please, from Coriander and me, color something pretty. Bye, everybody.